Welcome to the Impact in Charlotte podcast, where we believe you need to show up to go up, grow yourself to grow your business and your community. In each episode, we highlight a member of II Charlotte, share their story, and talk impact. Today's guest is Madison Levine. Hey, Madison.
Hello.
Madison is the owner of Levine Hearing, an independent, locally owned hearing clinic here in South Charlotte, hearing aid clinic here in South Charlotte. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So as you know, we talk about all things entrepreneurship. And so just want to start by having you share a little bit about how you started your own entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. Well, both my parents are entrepreneurs. So I think from a young age, I knew that I wanted to own a business. If you had asked me in high school what I was going to do when I grew up, I would have said, I'm going to own a business, which sounds ridiculous because I didn't know what type it was going to be. But I took a little winding journey to get here, but I ended up working for someone else for a couple of years and really taking notes as I went along the way because I knew the whole time that I was going to want to go out and do it on my own. So I opened my office a little over 5 years ago from scratch and have learned a ton along the way about entrepreneurship.
So parents were entrepreneurs. I think, there maybe at the time there weren't as many people in high school thinking, I'll start my own business, but you have, in some ways being able to say, or have that example, having your parents model that for you. What you mentioned kind of learning a lot of things along the way. What's been maybe the hardest lesson you've had to learn and maybe something that came a little bit easier or more natural to you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways that you can go about it, of course. You can start with more funding and start out like you're going to be big, you're going to be something, or you can start out really lean. And I did the latter. That was a really tough way to start out, but ultimately I think that was better because I never ended up in a situation where I wasn't in a good cash flow position, where anything was dangerous. I started out with me by myself, running the front office. I was greeting people at the door. I was answering the phones, and then I was turning around and walking them back to the back of the office. I did that for about 9 months before I hired my first employee. And I've seen a lot of people do it the opposite way, where they start out with a full staff, and that looks so much scarier to me. So I think that was good that I went that route. And that was partly my parents' influence. They both felt like that was what they had done, and that was their encouragement for me. So I feel like that's one of my best pieces of advice to people is to think lean from the beginning.
Well, in some ways you get to understand all the elements of the business then, right? Like you're running the front office, you're managing the client experience. Tell us a little bit about kind of the impact that your business makes or the way that you see it. How do you're obviously working with people who are having hearing challenges. Kind of what's the impact that you feel like you make?
Yeah, I think we fit a really special niche. So you've got people that need help hearing and they're trying to figure out where to go next. You have a couple options. You can go to a hearing aid store, which you see a lot of advertisements for in newspapers and mailers. You can go to the ear, nose, and throat clinic, which tend to be kind of like a merry-go-round. It's busy, you're kind of a number, you get shuffled through the process. I was trying to find a niche in between those two places where I could provide best practice care at a high level, where we were really taking care of people the way clinically you're supposed to, very data-based care, while also being in a smaller private practice setting where they get the attention, and I could provide the level of service that I wanted to, which is a little bit of a perfectionist type of service. And I feel like that's what kind of sets us apart. In Charlotte, there are really not very many people that I even consider a competitor. I really think of us as the alternative to the ear, nose, and throat clinic. That's what kind of makes us special.
So when you see patients, I mean, I think that's a great story. When you see patients come in, what is the special care they need for the most part? Kind of what's on offer, or what is that distinguishing factor?
Yeah, so it's fun. I just went through a whole branding session trying to pinpoint what are the differentiators for my practice, and I just went through it today. So it was so helpful to kind of pull out, because I could talk about a million things, but a couple of them are that, one, we're independent. So we're not owned by some other manufacturer. That was a very important business decision to me, that I didn't affiliate myself with just one brand. I wanted to have options for product. It's good for me and for the patients. For one thing, the manufacturers have to compete on their pricing, so it makes me very competitive for the patient. And two, the patient has access to anything that might be a good fit for them. They're not just going to get pushed a product because it's what I have, right? The second thing is appointment times. Because we have set ourselves up in this private practice setting the way we have, I can provide longer appointment times so that people aren't rushed. That's the number one complaint that I hear from people. So they just feel shuffled through the system without, maybe they have a need that can't be addressed in the appointment time they've been slotted for, so they get booked for another appointment. And we generally were able to handle everything in one go, which is efficient. It's good for us. It's good for them. It makes everybody happy.
So there's a human element to what you do, right? So not the kind of cookie cutter factory version of healthcare that I think many of us experience, but there's a real opportunity to connect with people and give them an experience that's customized.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you engage a client, just I'd love to hear a success story, right? So kind of what's one of your favorite stories in terms of, making an impact on a client?
Oh, I love that question. So I just saw somebody today, and I had just been thinking about her this week, actually. She came in just for a routine checkup, and she just reiterated to me all of the incredible things she said to me last year. So this is a patient who has worn hearing aids for 30 years. She's had several sets of hearing aids during that time. And when she came to me last year, she wasn't hearing well with her current aids. Her daughter pushed her to come see me. And she came in despondent, is the only word I can think of. She did not want to be there. She really had no hope that I could do anything better than what she had. And I had to just kind of mother her into doing what she needed to do, to at least try it, to give it a shot and let me try for her. She had come in at her checkup a week later, so it was last year, to tell me with tears in her eyes that she had never felt more confident. She'd called up all her girlfriends, invited them to lunch, to dinner. She had retired early as a principal, partly because she had lost so much confidence because of her hearing loss. With her new hearing aid, she had gone and applied and gotten a new job with her church. It changed every aspect of her life. And today, when I saw her again, she was just going through this list, and she was like, if you ever need a commercial, I want to be in it. Which, I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that. She's just, she's the billboard. She's an example of how, our mission statement is to enrich the lives of others through better hearing. And that's not just enriching the life of that person with the hearing loss. It's everyone around them. It's their family members, their coworkers, their children. All of their lives are enriched when that person has better hearing. So it's just so cool to see the butterfly effect of what we do, which I know has to, it just spreads across the whole community. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that story. I mean, it really points to, healthcare kind of, I'm just positioning it next to that factory element, right? Of like, factory is kind of like, I'm going to technically put a hearing aid in your ear, and I'm going to solve your hearing problem, right? But there's so many more things wrapped up into it than that. There's identity, there's confidence, there's self-worth.
Yes.
When you lose a function, there's a lot of loss with that. Right? I love that story.
Yeah.
I love that story. I want to shift gears a little bit. I think that's just a great story, so I want to kind of let that sit a little bit. But I want to switch gears a little bit. So at the beginning, we talked about entrepreneurship. We talked about kind of what it means to be an entrepreneur, how you got on your journey. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of community as a business owner, right? So you talked about for 9 months, you started this business, you ran it on your own, kind of the bootstrapper mentality of like, you kind of pull yourself up before you hired somebody. But we all know that, running a business can be a lonely thing. So just talk a little bit about the importance of a community of business leaders or being connected to other leaders can help you navigate the difficulties of being a business leader.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so important. When you're on your own island by yourself, lonely is absolutely the word for it. You think that you're encountering problems that nobody else has ever encountered. Everything feels new and feels like this huge hurdle to overcome. What I have loved in connecting with all different business communities that I've purposefully put myself in is the variety of backgrounds people come from, and yet the same type of hurdles that they're overcoming. So I'm in healthcare, and I've been in groups with other people who are in healthcare. And certainly we have some of our own challenges. For instance, dealing with insurance companies is its own bear. But I've been in other groups with people who are in completely different industries than me, and yet we still are encountering the same issues in HR, hire slow, fire fast. There's all kinds of things that you pick up along the way. And each one of those people, even though you're peers and you're working together, they end up mentoring you while you're hopefully mentoring them at the same time. So it makes you feel less lonely. And honestly, just more efficient. You might get to a solution so much faster when you have a peer to talk it through with. So for me, I'm a very social creature. I need feedback from people, sometimes to even move forward on a decision. And yeah, my business networking groups have been that for me in my tiny little business on my little island, where I was able to use them almost like a board of directors to help me with my decision making.
Yeah, I use the phrase that trouble floats, right? So like in an organization, hard things move up. But when you're sitting at the top of the chain, it's who do I go to, right? Like where do I go with the things that I'm dealing with that I don't know how to answer, the tough decisions that I'm facing that carry a lot of weight. So I love what you said. What if you had to say, we talked a little bit about it with kind of your parents as entrepreneurs teaching you some things as you got started. What's really good advice you've gotten maybe in the last few weeks? Just to narrow the window a little bit, but what's some really good advice you've gotten from another business leader? What would you share with us?
There's so many things. I think that one that I said, hire slow, fire fast, that is, I think people are the hardest part of a business. Honestly, having a product, having some marketing set up to sell it, all of that stuff is very plug and play. People are not plug and play. So managing not just who you've hired, but do you have the right butt in the right seat? Is that person in the position they should be in? Sometimes if you find a great person, you may realize you don't have them in the right position. And if you can move them around, you may find, I want to use this talent, but let me put it in the right place. And that's something that I have actually done recently in my business, and it's been incredible. So yeah, I think managing people is one of the hardest things to do. And that's also where I've gotten some of the best benefit from my peers and how they've managed people and how they've moved them around.
Yeah.
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 There's
ways that, with the business, you're building the plane. And I think, building the plane is the whole thing. But flying it is the flight crew. Right? So like, you have to figure out how do we deal with make this plane go. So I love that. I want to give you your 30 seconds where you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. 30 seconds. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell you something that was really impactful to me yesterday. So I've done these branding sessions with this person yesterday and today. And yesterday, she asked me a question like that, like, what would I say to a patient? What's the one thing I want to say to them? So here's what I would say. This is not a dress rehearsal. We're here today. We don't know if we're here tomorrow. I have people who tell me, I'm going to put off getting hearing aids, maybe next year, maybe the year after. And it just kills me because those moments, those sounds, those jokes, the connections, the inclusivity, all those things that they're missing today. All we have is the here and the now. So I want them to hear right now. And so this friend of mine, she said, I want you to hear and I want you to be here. Be here right now. I don't know, I felt like that was so profound. And I think that's for any entrepreneur, that's actually something you could consider. It's not even about your hearing, but listening, hearing, and being present in the moment. Yeah, a little mushy, but that's what I have to say.
I think it's great. I really like that. I like there are lessons in there piece. So thanks for sharing that nugget with us. And thanks for the work that you do. I know it not only impacts the lives of the people you deal with directly, but the people around them. And I think that message is really important, not only as a business owner, but also the work that you do at Levine Hearing. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. We are going to wrap up. So thanks to Madison today. Great conversation. Appreciate a lot of the insights. The success story that she shared was really touching and I think really moving. Join us next time as our guest will be Cass Ward. He is a fractional CFO and owner and operator of consulting. Thank you for listening to the Impact in Charlotte podcast, where we believe you need to show up to go up, grow yourself to grow your business and your community. If you want to learn more about II Charlotte, visit iicharlotte.com. Remember, impact begins with II. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.